The news that caught Manchester City fans by surprise came just as the team was beginning to regain its best form after the international break. City produced a thumping 5-1 victory over Burnley, showing that Guardiola's machine remains finely tuned. 2 goals from Haaland, 2 own goals from Maxime Esteve, and a precise strike from Matheus Nunes were enough to ensure a party atmosphere at the Etihad. Yet even amidst such a resounding result, what drew the most attention was the absence of one of the team's key pillars, Rodri. Supporters, so used to seeing the Spaniard as an indispensable figure, were puzzled when his name did not even appear on the squad list. The shock was considerable, given that Rodri had only just returned from a long spell, out with a serious cruciate ligament injury. He had already strung together 4 consecutive matches, including the clash with Arsenal, and appeared ready to continue as the midfield reference point. However, after the final whistle, Guardiola revealed that Rodri's knee was still not responding well to the strain. According to the manager, the pain had been worsening, and the player himself admitted that he was not fit to take the field. The fear of a relapse forced the club to act with caution. The decision to rest the midfielder may have seemed drastic, but it was unavoidable. The season has only just begun and is already shaping up to be one of the most challenging of the Guardiola era, especially as the squad has undergone significant changes. With a decisive Champions League tie against Monaco looming, risking Rodri's fitness in a domestic fixture could have jeopardized the club's European campaign. Guardiola knows full well that without him, City's tactical balance collapses. Rodri is not just another player, he is the heartbeat of the system, the defensive anchor who frees the creative players to express themselves. It is no exaggeration to say that Rodri's absence unsettled the fans. Many recalled last season, when the Spaniard only returned in May after missing almost the entire calendar. At the time, the team struggled to maintain consistency. Now, with the Champions League in play and Liverpool slipping up, the margin for error is slimmer. City needs stability, and Pep made it clear. Rodri will only return when he is 100%. There will be no rushing his recovery. Meanwhile, another hot topic was brewing behind the scenes at the Etihad Stadium, the future of Phil Foden. The midfielder, a product of the academy and widely regarded as one of England's finest current talents, is approaching a decisive stage in his career. His current contract runs until 2027, but the board has already begun moves to bring forward talks and ensure the star remains for longer. The need to define Foden's future has become even greater following the departure of Kevin De Bruyne, which left a massive creative void in midfield. Foden is the natural candidate to assume that role, but his last season was marked by highs and lows. In 2024, he hit a peak, winning the Premier League title and being named PFA Player of the Year. Yet the inconsistency in his performances and the pressure for results took their toll. In competitions such as the FA Cup and Champions League, City fell short, and the burden fell heavily on the shoulders of the player expected to lead. At the Club World Cup, held in the United States, Foden displayed flashes of brilliance, but the early exit against Al Hilal left scars. Now, with new sporting director Hugo Viana in place, the scrutiny has intensified. Viana has made it clear that the project is to rebuild the team around young talents and that Foden must be the figurehead, no longer just a promise. His recent performances reinforce that idea. Against Manchester United, Napoli, and Huddersfield, Foden played with greater confidence, delivering decisive passes and taking on a leadership role. It is precisely this form that prompted the club to accelerate the negotiation timetable. According to internal reports, both City and the players' representatives agreed to begin talks during the next international break. The goal is straightforward: to secure Foden's long-term future and officially establish him as the leader the team needs. On a personal level, the midfielder also has ambitions. He wants to cement his place in Thomas Tuchel's England squad for the 2026 World Cup. To achieve this, he knows he needs minutes, consistency, and a direct impact on matches. A renewed contract adapted to his current reality could provide the final boost to elevate his career to the next level. At the same time, a new gem has appeared on Guardiola's radar: Divine Mukasa. At just 18, the youngster impressed in the League Cup clash against Huddersfield. Playing in the unfamiliar role of false nine, he was unfazed. He provided an assist, moved intelligently between the lines, and showed remarkable maturity for his age. After the game, he casually explained that he was still learning the role, but saw similarities with his style as a number 10. Strikingly, he even compared himself to Kevin De Bruyne, proving he does not lack confidence. Experts are already describing him as a player tailor-made for Guardiola's style. Versatile, intelligent, and technically gifted. BBC pundit Sue Smith was emphatic, saying Mukasa can adapt to various attacking positions, using both feet with ease. If he maintains his development, he could soon earn a place in the senior squad. Guardiola has always valued young players of this profile, and Mukasa appears to be on the right path to becoming another City Academy success story. This breakthrough gives fans even more hope, as they see in the youngster a potential homegrown solution to strengthen the attack without major spending. The board, for its part, is keeping a close eye on how best to integrate him into the first team over the coming months. For Guardiola, who has had to deal with painful departures and rebuilding phases, seeing a talent emerge in this way feels like an unexpected gift. And to complete the optimistic outlook, Jeremy Doku is enjoying his best spell since joining the club. The Belgian, only 23, shone brightly in the thrashing of Burnley. Tireless on the wing, he tormented defenders and displayed improved decision-making, an area that had been criticized previously. Guardiola was full of praise after the match. He said Doku had learnt to recognize when to release the ball and when to take on his man one-on-one. According to Pep, very few players in the world can stop him in direct duels. The arrival of reinforcements such as Donnarumma has also breathed new life into the squad, amid the transition led by Hugo Viana. Even though the team has lost key names, the adjustments appear to be bearing fruit. Within this context, Doku has established himself as a crucial figure, virtually untouchable in the starting lineup. Supporters already view him as an undisputed starter and potentially one of the stars of the season. This collection of stories, the cautious approach with Rodri, Foden's contract renewal, Mukasa's emergence, and Doku's rise, shows how Manchester City are in a phase of adjustment and discovery. It is a club not only chasing titles, but also striving to build a solid future. Guardiola understands that every decision taken now could define the course of the season, and the fans are watching every detail with anticipation. Manchester City is living through a period in which the balance between past, present, and future must be constantly reevaluated. Guardiola, who has already won everything possible in English football, knows that his main mission now is not only to keep City at the top, but also to prepare the team for what is to come. This transition requires strategic decisions that go far beyond the pitch. The absence of Rodri, for example, laid bare how much the team still depends on certain names, but it also reinforced the importance of long-term thinking and of preparing alternatives capable of sustaining the playing system in moments of crisis. Phil Foden is, without doubt, the central figure in this process. Guardiola has always seen him as the natural successor to De Bruyne in the creative role, but up to now he has not managed to maintain consistency at the level the Belgian once displayed. Even so, the talent is undeniable. Foden has the ability to decide matches on his own, to alter the tempo of a game, and to deliver unexpected solutions in difficult moments. For the manager, it is now or never. The time has come to give him maximum responsibility, but also the tools needed to withstand this pressure. The discussions over his contract renewal are only the formal side of this transition. In practice, Foden needs to feel valued, not only financially, but also within the sporting project. What City is promising is not just a new deal, but the leading role of someone who is meant to be the face of the club over the next decade. If he manages to embrace this challenge, he could not only consolidate his status as a City idol, but also take on a prominent role with the England national team, especially with the 2026 World Cup cycle approaching. At the same time, Guardiola does not lose sight of the new generation emerging. The case of Divine Mukasa is emblematic. Players like him give City the opportunity to refresh the squad without relying exclusively on the transfer market. This is a competitive advantage, especially under the pressure of financial fair play. When an academy player manages to perform at the level Guardiola demands, the impact goes beyond the pitch. He inspires other talents, increases the fans' identification with the club, and provides breathing space to plan targeted reinforcements in other areas. The fact that Mukasa has looked comfortable in such a complex role as the false nine cannot be overlooked. Guardiola has always been a coach obsessed with players who see the game in a broad way, who can interpret more than one role and adapt to tactical variations. Mukasa, at only 18 years old, has already shown that he possesses this understanding. It is exactly this sort of profile that ensures the longevity of Pep's project. But it is not only the academy that is showing positive signs. The development of Jeremy Doku demonstrates how Guardiola's work can transform potential into reality. The Belgian arrived at the club with a reputation as a quick and skillful player, but still raw in his decision-making. What we saw in the victory against Burnley is a matured footballer who already knows when to accelerate, when to dribble, and when to release the ball to a teammate. This maturity does not come by chance, but from a constant process of correction, feedback, and trust. Pep has always emphasized that attacking players need the freedom to make mistakes, but also the discipline to learn from them. Doku seems to have absorbed that lesson. This trio, Foden, Mukasa, and Doku, in a way represents the three phases of the City project. Foden is the present that needs to be consolidated. Mukasa is the future that is already beginning to show signs. And Doku is the recent example of how Guardiola can take a promising talent and turn him into an essential piece. This combination, together with the experience of leaders such as Holland, Walker, and Ederson, forms the nucleus of a side that is capable of staying competitive even amid deep changes. We must not forget that Guardiola has always built his teams in cycles. It was that way at Barcelona, where he shaped a generation with Messi, Xavi, and Iniesta. It was that way at Bayern, with names like Thiago Alcantara and Lam, and it is happening now at City. The difference is that in Manchester he has had more time and more resources to plan every detail. Today, the challenge is to prepare the team to survive him, since his long-term stay is still uncertain. It is in this context that talks about renewals, squad management, and youth development gain even greater weight. Rodri's absence serves as a warning that no player is irreplaceable. City must find alternatives so as not to be dependent on a single name, however brilliant he may be. Foden, for his part, must assume the role of protagonist and show that he can carry the team in decisive moments. And talents like Mukasa and Doku must be nurtured to ensure that the future is already being built in the present. The supporters, for their part, follow all this with mixed emotions. On the one hand, there is the excitement of seeing youngsters emerging and stars evolving. On the other, the concern over injuries, departures, and the need to keep the team competitive on all fronts. It is this balance between hope and anxiety that keeps City's flame alive, turning every piece of news, every match, and every statement by Guardiola into an event worthy of maximum attention. The point that makes everything even more intriguing at Manchester City is how off-pitch details directly influence what happens inside the four lines. Rodri's absence is not just a physical problem, but also a psychological issue for the squad. The players feel it when such a vital piece is missing. Haaland, for example, depends heavily on the security Rodri provides at the base of play. Without him, the team loses balance, and the forwards become more exposed to the opposition's pressure. Guardiola knows that keeping Rodri fit means ensuring calmness across the whole structure. That is why the decision to rest him before the clash with Monaco was not just medical, it was strategic, a short-term sacrifice to preserve what could prove decisive in the long run. This reasoning also applies to Phil Foden. His renewal is a move that goes far beyond figures or contract length. City need him to see himself as the leader of a project intended to last more than a decade. It is as if the club were saying, You are not just one more star among many, you are the pillar that sustains the next era. For the fans, this message is also fundamental. For many years, City were criticized for depending on expensive signings. Now, having a homegrown player taking on the leading role is a way of silencing critics and, at the same time, strengthening the club's identity. Foden represents the link between tradition and the future. He is the boy who grew up in Stockport, dreamt of shining at the Etihad, and today carries the responsibility of writing new chapters in the club's history. It is no coincidence that he is seen as the answer to the gap left by Kevin De Bruyne. But this comparison is also a burden. Replacing a genius is never a simple task. That is why the contract negotiations must come hand in hand with a sporting plan that truly gives him the conditions to perform that role without being crushed by pressure. Meanwhile, Guardiola tests, adjusts, and observes. The emergence of divine Mukasa cannot be treated as a mere flash in the pan. Players who arrive so young and already stand out in such a demanding system as Pep's do not come along every day. It requires care, patience, and, at the same time, courage to gradually introduce them into the first-team environment. The way Mukasa moved as a false nine, alternating between dropping into midfield spaces and attacking the back line, shows that he understands the essence of positional play, something Guardiola values almost like religion. That same pattern of evolution is evident in Jeremy Doku's case. His transformation is a reminder that Guardiola does not simply sign talent, he shapes it. The Belgian arrived at City as a promise of dribbles and speed, but he was polished to become much more than that. Today, Doku is a real threat, capable of dismantling organized defenses and, at the same time, serving as an outlet when the team needs to break lines quickly. The maturity he demonstrated in the victory over Burnley is proof that he has become an indispensable piece. When we look from above, everything fits together like a puzzle. Rodri's absence forces City to consider alternatives and speeds up the process of other players maturing. Foden's renewal points to the need to consolidate internal leaders who give the team its identity. Mukasa's rise shows that the future can be built from within, without relying solely on external signings. And Doku's explosion symbolizes Guardiola's ability to turn raw talent into a lethal weapon. Each element has its specific role, but together they form the narrative of a club that refuses to stand still in time. This is Guardiola's City, a team that does not merely play matches, but manages cycles. Every absence becomes an opportunity, every youngster becomes a project, every signing becomes a symbol of transformation. It is this macro perspective that explains why the club has managed to remain competitive on so many fronts over recent years, even amid the most radical changes. The fans, in turn, live through this whirlwind with intensity. Many still remember the anguish of seeing De Bruyne go off. Others fear that Rodri may struggle with physical problems again. At the same time, there is the euphoria of seeing Doku shine and Mukasa emerge as a prospect. Between worries and hopes, the feeling is that City are living a decisive moment. It is not just about the next match against Monaco, nor about the points separating the club from Liverpool in the table. It is about how this cycle will be remembered in the future, as a successful transition into a new era, or as a poorly managed period of uncertainty. It is in this balance between recent glories and tomorrow's challenge that Guardiola builds his narrative. He never tires of repeating that City must play every match as if it were the last, but plan as if they were eternal. That philosophy is reflected in every decision, whether resting Rodri, renewing Foden, betting on Mukasa, or giving Doku the spotlight. In the end, what the fans see on the pitch is the result of a far more complex mechanism, one that involves strategy, psychology, and vision for the future. And so, citizen supporters, it is clear that Manchester City are living through one of the most intense and strategic moments in their recent history. Between the precaution with Rodri, Foden's renewal, Doku's rise, and the hope invested in Mukasa, everything shows that the club's future is being shaped step by step, leaving nothing to chance. Now I want to know your opinion. Do you agree with Guardiola's decisions? Do you believe this is the right path to keep City at the top of England and Europe? If you enjoyed this video and want to keep receiving the latest Manchester City news firsthand, you already know what to do. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss a single detail. That helps our community grow a lot and motivates us to keep bringing you exclusive content. A big hug and see you next time.